Fabrizio Grossi, welcome to Australian Musician.
Thank you, Greg. I'm really, really happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah, I believe you're in California, in your studio today.
Yes, I mean, well, I wouldn't say beautiful North Hollywood because of all the nice places around Los Angeles. North Hollywood ain't that necessarily pretty, but it's the spot to be, and that's also where my room is next to a bunch of other great musicians and friend of mine.
Yeah,
So we all keep each other company.
yeah. Fab, you're such a great bass player. What was your initial attraction to bass? Why gravitate so hard to bass and not guitar or keys?
Originally, my inclination was guitar.
Yeah,
I wanted to play guitar. It's a long story, but basically, when I rejoined with my elementary school friends after junior high, they were already playing something, and I was. I wanted to play guitar. Uh, my aunt, who I was living with at the time, because my natural mother passed away, so she was helping my father to raise me. Um, Her husband, my uncle, was a great piano player. He had a piano. They wanted me to take piano lesson, and like I was really a hardhead back then, I didn't know any better. I said, no, I want to play guitar, and obviously I got stuck on that. And then when I met with my other friends, they were already a couple of years into guitars and I wasn't, and basically I could only play, the riff of Smoke on the Water on one string, maybe Paranoid, or something like that. And my friends were like, we want you in the band because we're buddies, but we already have three guitar players. With you will be four and you suck. So you should be playing bass. And I'm like, what's bass? This is like, well, just like guitar, but with four strings. I'm like, my head goes like, well, it must be easier. It's okay, cool. Let me do that. So I trade in that crazy looking cheap electric guitar that I purchased to join the band, and I traded in for this Japanese copy of a jazz precision bass, and never looked back. And within a year and a half, a lot of my friends in the band completely abandoned music, and I was playing with as many people as I could in Milan, and it just kind of like immediately resonated in me. I don't know. It was like I said, I was not. I mean, I always heard the frequency and all of that, but I never really thought what was, the bass instrument was playing and all of that. Just to tell you how much I was in music. I mean, I know that Paul McCartney played bass because I was reading the books. And I was, but never like listening to the songs and try. Oh, let me. No, never like that. It was just like super green.
Counterfeit Solstice Volume One is, I believe, an idea you've had for quite some time.
Uh, yes and no. Actually, the song and the idea of doing music this way, it's something that I always had with me. Um, and again, it's not that I'm complaining about what I've done so far and what I keep on doing, especially with my other band, Supersonic Blues Machine. Don't get me wrong, absolutely not. It's just that this album and this, moniker, Soul Garage Experience, it's kind of like a little container where all the music that I really loved and I grew up with and were my first passion, I guess, that what draw me to music in the first place. It's all a combination with that. So the desire of wanting to do that, it's always been there. But you have to consider that uh, when I was starting playing and in Milan with my friends, I guess we were probably more like on the hard rock vibe, and it were not the time to be eclectic. Meaning, right now, I think everybody, when you talk to people, especially I'm noticing it, during this interview for the record, when you're talking about this kind of stuff, the fact that you're combining soul, you're combining sometimes classic rock, you combine obviously blues because it's all blues based, um, R&B, rock and roll, but also reggae and all these elements there. This is, oh man, that's cool. It sounds good because I guess that's today's approach where all bets are off. I mean, I just want to hear. Don't tell me what it is because today there are a lot of different combination of things, but back then, um, being eclectic, it wasn't necessarily a good thing, especially for a kid, like me. I was like 15 or 16. You're playing a band that is kind of like hard rock, and everybody fits the part. I'm not necessarily saying my bandmates were bad guys, absolutely not. But everything that was around the whole rock movement. If I would say I'm going home and I'm jamming over Sade because I like those sounds. I mean, for some reason, or that my on my stereo there was always James Brown, and Bob Marley was my first love, or Carlos Santana. It was not like today saying that I'm listening from uh I don't know, the Black Keys to Kanye West to Dua Lipa. I mean, it was not the same thing. So I always kind of like that kind of need or output repressed, but I was finally able to kind of like do it in a solo way, so I can talk about everything that I wanted to talk about without necessarily having been too concerned about the other guys in the band might react to it, even though might very go along with basically on every subject. But this is me, so I can be free with that, and also with the musical choices, and that's why I would say it's something that is always been with me. In terms of music itself, some songs are old songs that I had there in my vault. Some other songs are songs that I wrote during COVID, and some of them are songs that were taken for me from the last batch of songs that we prepared for the new Supersonic Blues Machine, which I don't think were appropriate for Supersonic Blues Machine after everything that we put together. So those songs sounded more like me, like what I always wanted to do, and it was not necessarily that. And I put them all together, and there you go. Soul Garage Experience, Volume 1.
Yeah. So why did you choose these particular musicians for this project? What factors did they need to possess?
These are all my friends, and I never really thought about it in that term. These are all people that sure, I might be performing wise, probably more busy or paired up in the last 5 years, thanks to the Supersonic Blues Machine project, with Kenny Aronoff and Billy Gibbons and all those guys. But when I'm back in town, of course, Kenny's studio is next door to mine, so we always hang, play, record, do things together. But when I play around town, Stephen Perkins was we always had something together that we were playing. Same thing with Alex that comes in with us. Derek, that I know since he was 16, and he was busking on the street in Santa Monica to show, and the guy was already insane back then, and all these other cats. So sometimes you have a particular song, and hey, Chris, why don't you come and play this harmonica? I have a track that I think you'll be perfect. And the same thing for some of the other songs that are there, where Diamond sings, or With or Without You, which is the single that is gonna welcome or walk the album to the altar and give it away to the public, and where my dear friend Betty Smith sings. So I never really considered that. I mean, as far as like what they need to have, what possessions, what they need to possess, is a lot of soul, being very positive and kick-ass, and basically travel on the same wavelength or frequency, if you wanna call it that way.
Yeah. Is there a track on the album which is closer to your heart than others?
We really thought about this, don't it's like when you say, it's like they're all my kids. You say, I love my son number 2 more than my son they're all my 8 kids or whatever it is. That's very difficult. I love them all equally. But I would say, if I have to say one song where I'm attached the most, because it was the first representation together in this record that I put together that combine basically all these elements that we've been talking about. And also it's very pungent in terms of words and how they're dealt with. It would have to be Right Down Below. But not because it's the better song than the rest, so I love it the most. It's just because it kind of like it ushered in this new kind of like spirit. But other than that, I love them dearly, all of them.
Yeah,
they're all my kids.
You wrote the album, you played on it, you produced it, you mixed it. Was it difficult to let it go and say it's done?
Oh, I haven't let it go yet. I even buying it among all the no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Is you know what? The thing is this, it's very simple. People ask me this, but and I'm not what people say, control freak, because I'm not. I love when I have other people working with me that are reliable and they do things great, trust me. I like to enjoy life too. I like to maybe watch a movie or not necessarily always be in a hurry, always have to worry about 300 different things. They don't. Unfortunately, I find it sometimes very difficult to have that kind of combination with people. And starting off when I was, when I started playing, when I was 14, 15 in Italy, that, with your band, you're trying to record your first demo and all of it. It's, you go into a studio in Italy, never been a rock and roll country whatsoever. And, you're going into the studio and you want to try to do the best that you can, and you give the local engineers, sounds of records that you like, just to get kind of in the right direction. And people always kind of like never got it more wrong than what they did. So I had to kind of like learn how to take things in my own hands, maybe in unorthodox ways, maybe the wrong ways. But you know what? It served me good so far. So I have no regret on that sense. The thing is, like, I got so used to do that it became part of my routine. Like Bob Dylan, there was a time when he was performing, like down in the village, Cafe Y and whatnot, that he always had to add the acoustic guitar, the tambourine on his foot, and, the harmonica and the singing. And that became part of him. I mean, he would put all those things on, even if he was not going to use them. For me, it's the same. So it's not question of I need to control, I need to do this. It's just, it comes to package. Sometimes, it's either my wife or some of my other friends says, hey, man, dude, don't, I can do that for you. Oh, you can, cool, perfect. Otherwise, I mean, I don't take it as a burden or anything like that. It's just like part of my DNA. Like, you're waking up in the morning, you go brush your teeth. It's the same thing,
Yeah. What was the main bass that you used on the album?
Good question. I'm guessing here because I'm not really sure. I'm like 80% positive. The majority of the recording were done with my new Ibanez SR series, but it's a prestige, incredible bass. It's got so many options that sometimes it's even too much. And it's fantastic. It's my main instrument at the moment. And I, joined the company a couple of years ago, and I'm incredibly happy with the stuff that they make. That bass is, I would say, predominantly there. Next to it, I have a P bass that it's a late 70s P bass, and that's the one that is in more songs where you can clearly tell that sounds like a P bass. Well, then it's that guy. It's something particular. That bass is not really easy to play. I have, short and small fingers. I fit very well with the 24 frets of the Ibanez. With Fender, the short, it's not really the short scale. It's just less frets, but the frets are more apart from each other. It's not easy for me to play it. I cannot really play the way I fully play it. So sometimes I use it, especially when I write demos, I put down part to make sure that I keep it simple and I don't get lost into frivolous, overplaying. And sometimes the track is just so spontaneous and natural with that sound that it serves as the starting point of the song. In a lot of these songs, the bass that you hear on the final track is the one that I put down when I was putting down the demo of the song, maybe just with a click or with like a little drum machine to play. It just because then it grooves the way that I want it to. And I says, okay, we're not going to record together on this one. Perkins, just, overdub drums to this bass. Just follow the bass. Don't follow the click. I mean, follow the click, but listen to the bass. And they play to me. So that one, I would say, is a good probably 40% of the record. And then the last one, it's my other model. This is a boutique, an Italian boutique named Manne. We developed this model together called Malibu. It's like a rendition of a J bass with active pickups, and it's like one of those instruments that all look vintage and beat up, but it's not. I mean, it's probably like 12, 13 years old, 15 maybe. And the particularity is that's 24 frets, and it's set up in a way that I can play it, and it's got a probably more of approach modern P bass kind of sound. Those are the instruments that I used for this record. And then all my pedals. I'm crazy for pedals. I never used bass, cable, amp. That's never going to happen with me. Absolutely not. Not because the amp doesn't work well. I use Mark Bass. I've been with Mark Bass for as long as they start. Whenever they started, I think it's the best amp in the world, at least for me, for my sound. So there's nothing wrong with the amp. There's nothing wrong to play that way. It's not my way. I like to kind of like color things based upon the song, based upon the mood, based upon whoever I'm playing with. So there's always going to be a long list of pedals. Maybe not all engaged at once, but they're all going to be there ready to be used or abused during the night.
So what's the plan for this album? Are you in a position where you can go out and do some gigs in America at the moment?
Yes and no. Meaning I live in California, and we're probably going to be the last state of the union to really let big things happening. However, it's a big holiday this weekend. This is Labor Day, and after Labor Day, there is a bunch of festivals and stuff that are opening up in California. So I would say that domestically things are happening till a point, because there are a lot of things that are occurring in our business, especially on the promoters and the touring musicians, and then the public don't really know. They're not really aware. Like, for example, insurance for the traveling party, the tour. This is something that you do normally, besides pandemic, but also liability from the promoters. There is some serious issues getting this kind of coverages. There's still too many outbreaks. So you might be scheduling 25 shows, and then after 5 you have to stop for 3 because something happened or a place closed down. So it's we'll play by ear. There's a lot of things that I'm supposed to be doing, but that I'm not really advertising at the moment, because again, exactly for this reason. Obviously that should be dissipate, from January on. There's a big year next year in place for sure, both because I have another record coming out with Supersonic Blues Machine, and we have a big tour with that, but I also we're already working on bookings for Soul Garage Experience and my old gang of crazy friends that are going to come out with me. I'm going to have a couple of guests, and most likely Betty Smith and my other dear friend Solomon Hicks. We're talking about doing some shows together. So that for sure. Between now and December, basically we'll take what we can, most likely here locally, and if we can end it up in doing these other events because they get confirmed, fine. But like, for example, these things that we're supposed to be doing at the New Orleans Blues Festival and Blues Festival, Jazz Festival, and all, the festival got canceled. So again, but we are in a position that, we're position meaning we're available. We stand by the door, on microphone and the phone handy. If it's a go, then on the plane. There you go. Other than that, I'm trying to get engaged with this, and obviously with interviews and all of that, and prepare. We have a couple of things that we're doing online, but again, the ultimate goal is live and come and play. And I really would like to see if the next year will be the year where I can finally put my feet on your beautiful country.
Okay, Fabrizio, it's been great to talk to you. The album's out September 10, and we look forward to seeing you down here one day.
Hopefully so. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Greg.